Howdy, greetings everybody. Welcome to week 6 for Farm to Table. How's everybody doing tonight? Good? Solid. Happy to hear that. Hope everybody's staying safe. I know there's been some rough weather, lots of hot temperatures, depending upon where you're located. Kids may or may not be going back to school, or you might be having more lockdown. It's a whirlwind. We never know, right? I mean, we got to take it one day and 1 week at a time. Just stay safe, everybody, and just do your part and know what we need to do to, make it to the next week, and reach out when you're having issues if you are, and that's kind of where we're at right now, right? We're the holding pattern worldwide. But on that note, seen some great work coming in from NPuppyLot already. A lot of people that really enjoyed it, which is fantastic. Some people who are on the fence about the technique, but how about we open it up to you all right now? Anybody that would like to share or have any questions regarding week 5? Now is the time. Nope. Deborah, are you trying to talk? Yes. Hold on 1 second. Trying to get you to, can you unmute? I'm trying to unmute you, but I'm not able to.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep.
I was wondering, in Papillot, you can do salmon that way, right?
Yes, of course.
Okay, but in doing the salmon, you don't have you can't cook it that long, right? Because it don't take salmon that long to cook anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it really depends. It depends on a lot of factors, right? How thick is your fillet? What is your fish coming out of that fridge and it's freezing cold? Has it been on the counter? How is are you starting it on the flat top? I mean, your stove top? Are you putting it directly in? There's a lot of different factors that come into it. But generally, it's a good amount of time to guess for steaming with other ingredients in there. Again, if you're talking about, as we know, a fish fillet, right? That tail is really thin. And as we move into the larger part of the body, you can have some really thick fillets. So there is some of that knowing, deeper knowledge of how thick is my fillet. Am I, and you're going in without having that ability to see it, right? Is it done, overdone?
Yeah, okay.
A lot of people's issues, but you'll be fine with salmon or pretty much any shellfish or fish. And the more you practice and the more you get an idea for the thickness of your fillet or shrimp or lobster or tilapia, you'll have a better idea of how long to cook it for.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Chef.
Especially if you prefer to eat salmon a little bit under.
Yeah.
As opposed to well done, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Then you want to pull that out a little bit earlier. Some people, really don't like having a medium well fish. I personally love it, but some people want those flakes and do not want to see any translucency. Yeah.
Overcooked fish is not good. It's not good when it's overcooked. It's dry and yucky. Don't nobody want to taste that.
Yeah. The good thing with steaming is that it won't be dry, but it'll be flakier. So there's a little wiggle room. But yeah, no, I agree.
Okay. I'm gonna try it.
Okay, great.
All right, thank you very much, Chef.
You're welcome, Deborah. All right. Margarita, I see your hand up as well.
Yes, Chef, thank you. I just wanted to, understand. So when it's in the pouch and it's steaming and the temperature in the oven is 450, obviously it goes up higher in the pouch. And that was my biggest concern, is that I knew my oven was at 450, but inside the pouch, it was driving me insane. I didn't know how much hotter it gets in there.
Well,
Does
remember,
that make sense?
it does make sense. Steam is steam though, right? It's not going in
Right.
necessarily already steaming.
Right.
Steam is obviously hotter. Those vapors are hotter than boiling, right?
Right.
So, you know, remember, even if we put something into an oven that's at 450, those ingredients aren't immediately up to 450.
Okay.
Right? Just like if we put in a chicken, right? And we put it in 450, that chicken isn't going to hit 450 or 425
Right
because
away.
it takes time for all of that from outward in to get fully cooked.
Okay. Yeah, that was the only thing that was kind of, I was just thinking, oh my goodness, if it's 450 and the pouch is puffing up, how much hotter is it in there and how much longer? So the moment it started smelling and I could smell the ingredients, that's when I said, okay, it's done.
Yeah, a lot of that, I know you mentioned that in your narrative. So senses, right? This is what we keep talking about. You know, I keep talking about observations, right? And why I'm drilling those home in the narrative. And some of you guys are totally knocking it out because you're starting to pick up on the fact that it's not just what the recipe says, okay? If we can't see, right? So we can't see. And I'm gonna put some meat down on a grill. And I'm only gonna be able to tell if I'm using my other senses, whether that's smelling or hearing, right? If I don't hear anything sizzle, what do you think? Should that be an alert? Right? Same if I were to put that in a pan and I didn't hear a sizzle, right? When we're doing poêlée. If you're not hearing a sizzle when that pork chop or steak goes in your pan, that should be your first indicator of an observation that something is not right. That means my temperature is not right, right? So there are indicators that are sensory, not just visual, but sound, smell, right? We all know when you walk in, you smell the rice cooking, right? At first you don't smell rice cooking, but once it starts to boil and the steam is coming out a little bit on the sides, you know, oh, maybe I should go check it. I mean, you get those, use your gut, right? It's basically saying use your senses. Be honed in constantly to these observations. The more you do it, the more you notice, like, oh, something smells, it might be, I'm not even joking, you will start to notice before something burns because you're gonna notice this slight change in a scent. You say, I need to go check on that right now. It's just something that builds over time. So don't worry, it takes a lot of time to get to that, but sensory indications are huge when you're working as a chef and making observations. Robert.
Yeah, this is something Chef Lee and I spoke about. I did the lobster tails, and I took them out of the shell, and they curled up on me. And she was mentioning maybe do like a split tail next time so they stay spread out and they don't curl up on you. But they came out great. 8 minutes in the oven. And
Awesome. I love it. She showed me your work. It was beautiful. Another thing could be, you know, when you're thinking about seafood, right? Shellfish, and how they do tighten up. Who's ever cooked shrimp? You see it going from this thing to a super tight crunch, right? Now, a few other ways to get that so it doesn't curl. One, obviously, how high you're cooking it, the temperature, how long. Another thing is putting a skewer through there, right? A skewer is going to ensure that it stays nice and straight as well. Now, obviously, that's not applicable for all types of cookery. However, that is going to yield you a really nice, straight, firm end result, as opposed to that tightening and curling. And remember also, in shell versus out, different cooking, time, all of those factors. But like I said, everybody that has been, we've graded so far, beautiful work. People are making some sauces, maybe pairing it with a nice grain. So great presentation I've seen, and really thoughtful and insightful narratives. So just keep that high quality work up. We are in week 6 now, so we're basically at the halfway mark. So what does that mean? Hello, hello. If you're missing work, let's get that in. All right. Don't want to wait any longer. We've been making calls today. if you have any questions, reach out. All right. Okay. On that note, week 6, we're talking about food waste. Anybody know how much, just on average, food is wasted every year in the U.S.? Percentage. Guess. Remember, there's no wrong answers. Ooh, I love it. People are on rapid fire here. We've got 75, 40, 56. Woo! All right, you guys are on fire. I love it. All right. Yeah, so most studies will show anywhere between about 30 to 60%. I say a safe bet is about 45. All right, depending upon what study you're reading. It's giving you, it'll put you around that area. All right. How does food waste happen? Where do we think our main sources of food waste are coming from? Transit, trimmings and scraps, I like that. Overcooking, food going to spoilage. What else? Properly ordering, carelessness, not even, so overproducing, overpurchasing, poor menu planning, something's not selling, improper cooking, yeah. So we hope that our improper cooking, that's minuscule, right? Accidents do happen, but you guys are hitting these on, right? Not the correct storage. What does FIFO mean? FIFO, everybody, this is something.
First in, first out.
First in, first out, yes, okay? Why? That is gonna reduce your spoilage. How many times do you, whether you're working in an industry or at your own home, you purchase food and go into the fridge, ooh, that lettuce is gone. Those carrots are soft, right? Something has mold on it now. It happens to everybody, it's okay, right? But we want to strive to be better, because what if, let's just take an example, right? We got a banana, all right? And got that one banana, half of it's rotten. What did that banana I can only use half of it now, right? So what happened to the cost of the banana?
Doubled.
It doubled, exactly. So when you start looking at the cost of actual food, when we're talking about waste, you guys are talking about trimmings. I'm going to show you some visuals to get that. Now, how can we work with trimmings, right? When we're prepping food, what do we think is really important when we're prepping food? Obviously that we reduce waste.
Using as much of it, as much of the product that we can.
Yes. And how do we make that happen with our staff? Or with you, yourself?
Proper knife cuts.
Knife skills and training. Yes, exactly. Because if we don't have a trained staff, we're saying, hey, can you just cut the tops and bottoms off those carrots because we've got to make it something else. And if my staff is taking an inch off of that top of the carrot, an inch off the bottom, wow, sounds small at first. But when you look at a 50-pound box of carrots, those inches on each end really start to add up. It amounts to a few plates, a few whole dishes that you could be making money on. And instead, you're losing money on it because it's going out. All right. Now, what about for the waste that we can't control? Like, it's really just like, it's inedible. We can't do anything. We're properly trimming. We've got our staff trained. We know we're executing our knife cuts. What can we do with those scraps? What are some options?
Stocks.
Stocks, if they are of a good quality, scraps, yes, stock, right? Remember, we want to make sure that we're making our stocks taste good. Compost.
Yeah, compost. Yeah, as I say, if you're growing your own stuff, you can compost.
yes, compost is a big thing. Now, what if you're saying, hey, well, you know, how am I going to set up a composting plan in my restaurant? Well, guess what? Now, with the day and age that we're in, that was not a thing before. But guess what? There is. There are companies that will come pick up your compost. Okay? Guess where's a great place for compost to go? What type of animals love just eating scraps? Pigs, yeah, little piggly wigglies, right? So guess what? Now you have a bunch of scraps. You talk to a local pig farmer and you make a deal. Hey, you want all my compost and all my scraps? Sure. Maybe you get a pig at the end of the year, or a good cut, a good deal, right? A little bit of trade. Plus, now you know what the pigs are eating. You know at least part of what that pig is eating. All right? You're closing that circle on sourcing, okay? And reducing waste. All right? So, what about oil? Who knows what happens to oil? Remember, we've got the fryers filled. We're cranking out some delicious stuff in the fryer. We're cleaning that. We're straining it every night. But then what happens next? What can we do to it? I see Carla saying it can be for tractors and vehicles, and Henry said, yeah, recycling. So guess what? You can recycle that and turn that into usable fuel. Yeah. All right. So there are ways to say, let's start thinking about how to reduce our overall waste. Has anybody heard of imperfect produce or any of these? Yeah, all right. So for those of you who haven't, let me just pull up their website. Imperfect produce is really cool. Now, one thing that we notice when we walk into a grocery store, right? Everything is in this perfect row, right? These rows that are immaculate, everything the same size. Why do we think that happens? Why is everything almost the exact same size when we go into the grocery store?
Visually appealing.
But also because the grocery store has said, put it out a spec, all right, for short, a specification, which you will also be putting on your inventory list, a specification about the size and the grade and the quality, right? And they're saying our customers like this. We want this. So when you're talking about massive sorting, massive harvesting, things are getting sorted by size and grade, just like you got grade A, B, large, small eggs. Similar stuff is happening to your veg and produce, right? And it has to meet a certain criteria. Otherwise, the grocery store says, I don't want that. Saw somebody saying, hey, yeah, those two-legged carrots, right? Chef Lee and I were talking about this the other day. Yeah, that's what imperfect produce is. Let me pull up their website right now. I've got their list, and it's pretty fantastic what they're doing. They're taking all these odd shapes. Guess what? We know that it tastes delicious. It still tastes the same, right? The two-legged carrots taste the same as a single-legged carrot, right? So what's the deal, right? Why are these fruits and vegetables getting rejected and turned away? Well, they found a solution. Realize there's tons of utilization for it. Not only this company, let me just pull this up, my mouse is not working. All right. Not only this company, but many other ones all around the nation. And you'll see, we talked about that, right? Imperfect shape, perfect flavor, right? You're getting a little bit less cost on those. And check this out. Where does it say? I think it shows how much they have saved, but I don't know if they still do that one, but they used to. But this is pretty impressive. All right, if food can be saved, we will save it. All right, 40% of the food, this is based on this one in the US, goes uneaten. $218 billion in food is thrown away every year. 21% of fresh water supply is used to produce wasted food. And 20 billion pounds of fresh produce go unharvested or unsold each year. Now, in the US, we have a big issue. We have a lot of people that are starving, going without food, right? We need to start making that gap between wasted food and people going hungry smaller and smaller. So what does that mean? That means supporting imperfect produce, reaching out to maybe, you know, your local farmers and growers who's got the ends that don't sell. What can you do, right? Now there's one thing if you really want this perfect shape for the perfect plate, but what can you do with all those little odds and ends that are not perfectly shaped? Those two-legged carrots. What can you transform these imperfect fruits? Yeah, soup. What else? Purees, bars, everything. When you're chopping it up, sauces, does it matter? No. If you're not looking for that specific visual indicator of this perfect little onion or baby carrot, you can utilize it in many other applications where that size does not need to be that specific because it's getting blended. See? So, right there, another way at reducing waste. There's whole companies actually that are devoted just to this. Think about a juicery, right? We all know juices are big deals right now, right? Everybody loves fresh squeezed juice. What happens when we juice some fruit or veg? What do you get out of it? You get
Pulp.
juice on one side and pulp, exactly. So there's a company that was making juice, right? And they said, holy moly, we've got all this fresh juice and mounds, heaps of fiber, right? What's in pulp? Fiber, all right? What can we do with that? Guess what? They reached out. They started brainstorming with other collaborators. We can turn those into chips. We can turn them into bars, all right? You can make dog treats out of it. So many different things that are applicable, right? If we're keeping sanitation standards in check, time and temperature controls, keeping things fresh, there's no stopping us, right? When we use it all together, when we combine, you think of other ways to utilize the product and the leftovers. Literally, it doesn't stop. Who knows about beer? Does anybody know about beer? When we take beer, right, we need a few ingredients. Hops, right? Barley, water, right? Those are your basics, all right? So we go through the beer, we ferment it, and then we have all of this, it's called spent grain, all right? They've used the grain, the hops, the barley, it's spent, meaning it's been used. Well, guess what? Why don't we transfer that into something? Another company started doing it. It is literally nonstop. So the beautiful thing is that we're in a time of invention and creation, and we're saying, because we're hitting a part where landfills are full, right? We've got litter everywhere, and people are going hungry, and we have unsanitary waterways. We need to help stop this. So figuring out how to make that waste reduce, taking that compost in your restaurant and getting it to a pig farmer, or utilizing it in your own, maybe it doesn't have to be a pig farmer. It could be a regular old farmer. Maybe you're growing herbs on the roof. Maybe you get a compost bin and you do it, right? Now, does this all take some training of the staff? Yeah, but you're gonna get a return on investment, right? Because also your customers, guess what? Customers don't wanna eat at places, if you look at the trends, customers don't necessarily wanna eat at places that are destroying the world, right? They want to say, oh, wait, you're taking some green initiatives, you compost, you source locally. Heck yeah, I want to support you because I want to support that. So it grows your customer base as well. And guess what? It also grows your pockets, all right? Being sustainable is also about being profitable. They're not separate, okay? Which is fantastic. Yeah, Chef.
Catherine, one thing I want to point out is that as chefs, we are the diplomats of the food industry, right? So we have a responsibility to bring these sorts of things like sustainability to people's attention, right? We are the vanguard who's going to carry this information forward to the world. We have an opportunity here. So it's not just important because of the bottom line, which is very important, but it's also important because of the ripple effect it'll have, because people will listen to us. We're the experts, right? So that's a big part of why, as chefs, we need to bring, this is a pun, a dad joke, we need to bring it to the table, right?
I love it, Chef. Yeah, 100%. All right, I've got a visual for y'all I want to share with you. This is about trimmings. This is going to lead into what we're doing for this week. All right. So here we go. Right? We've got this melon, excuse me, that we are trimming, right? All about that training, right? Can we use that rind for anything? Pineapple. What about this? What can we do with those ends of the sides of the pineapple? Can we do anything? Onion. How much onion are we actually removing? Yeah, fermented, yeah. Are we removing, yeah, pickling. Are we removing too many layers of the onion? Are we just taking the skin? How much are we chopping off that top? Remember, a lot of onion reduces down to a little bit of caramelization, all right? Carrots. What can we do with these carrot tops here? Salad, what else? Soup, sure. Plant them. If you took off the top, you could, but planting it just like that probably won't get you too far. But sauces, what about supplementing, making a carrot top chimichurri, right? Garnish. Tons of applications for this. Broccoli, are we throwing this stem away because we only want the florets on our plate? Peel, chop, saute, stem is delicious. Yeah, exactly. So start to think about utilization. These leaves, if you ever get a nice head of cauliflower, if you ever see a real cauliflower in a garden, you will see that there are massive leaves, as well as broccoli, massive leaves surrounding these. Completely edible, tasty, wonderful. Artichokes, here's another one where you're buying, remember, you're buying this entire product. When we break it down, we start processing it, right? And we're left with this. That's a big difference from that, right? We've lost a lot of material, a lot of product there. We still have to sell it for what we still have to make a profit on that. Here's a beautiful one, right? This person's doing a good job on their watermelon. This, pickle it. So many applications for it. All right. Odds and ends, you can make kimchi. Again, if we've got a recipe that's calling for julienne, so we know we need to start our pepper prep like this. But again, what are we going to do with all these little bits and pieces? Maybe we can use that as a garnish. Maybe we can brunoise it. Maybe we can make a coulis. Now, potatoes, which is the specialty of this week. Do not, I repeat, do not use a paring knife. Excuse me for 1 second. I'm gonna, hopefully the sneeze passes. Sorry. Almost got it. So use a peeler. All right. Why? Because when we use a paring knife, we're gonna lose a huge amount of flesh. All right. We just want the skins here. Skins only. Here we're losing flesh. Again, when you're prepping a 50-pound box, this adds up to a lot of waste. But What if we turn that waste into a garnish? What if we turn that waste into a profit added, value added ingredient? It's huge, right? Remember, garnishes make a big impact on a dish. They add texture, crunch, flavor, height. They also increase the perceived value of a dish. Perceived value, remember, that's what the guest thinks it looks like. Perception, perceived, right? Not necessarily what it actually is, but that it looks fancier, right? When you have a beautiful garnish, you're like, wow, you know that extra time and care went into plating that, thinking about how to compose the dish, all right? So for this week, there are a few important lessons that we need to talk about. One, potatoes. Potatoes, potatoes, potatoes. Who remembers from back in CU101 the difference between waxy and starchy? Does anybody remember the difference between waxy potatoes and starchy potatoes? And that's okay if you don't, because we're going to go over it. Robert said he's got his hand up. All right, Robert, let's see what he's got.
I think waxy potatoes hold their shape better and starchy kind of break apart easier.
Bravo. Yes, you're completely right. So what do we also know about the difference? Remember, we were talking about, okay, how there are different cuts of meat and we want high heat, high fast cooking for certain cuts of meat and low and slow for other, right? Different applications. So is true for a waxy versus a starchy potato. When might we want to use a waxy, which holds its shape better, potato? What dish? Think about it.
Potato salad.
Potato salad, yeah, right? Totally. Stew, yeah, or a nice clam chowder, yeah, a soup. Yeah, I want those potatoes to hold their shape. I don't want them breaking down, okay? It can happen, of course, but we don't want that, right? If you're looking for this really defined finished product, okay? Gratin as well, yeah. So you guys did great. So when do we want to use those waxy potatoes? For gratins, for scalloped potatoes, for soup where we want to hold their shape. We're not blending it and breaking it down, all right? Potato salad. And as Melinda said, it has less starch, okay? When do we want to use those lovely waxy potatoes? And it also has higher moisture content, all right? Those waxy potatoes have higher moisture content. When do we want to use those russets, those starchy potatoes?
French fries.
French fries, yep. When else? Mashed potatoes, yeah, exactly. So think about this. We've got a russet potato, right? A starchy potato, and we want to make these really decadent pomme puree, right? We want to load. We want that potato, that mashed potato, that pomme puree to be so rich, so wonderful. We want it to be able to hold as much moisture from something else, right? We want to be able to have that potato say, soak it up, let me give it to me. I want to take it on. I want to take on that cream. I want to take on that butter, okay? A waxy potato is not going to soak as much up. A starchy potato is saying, give it to me, right? I want that, okay? So same like in a waxy situation, it doesn't want all that flavor. It's like, I have so much moisture already in me, I can't take that much on, okay? It's gonna hold its shape better because of that. Also, when we mash it, right? What happens when we overprocess potatoes no matter what and use a food processor or anything to break it down? Or just mashing, becomes really gummy. Yeah. All right. So start thinking about potatoes, right? So now for this week, you need waxy potatoes. Waxy potatoes includes a large variety of potatoes. Golden Yukon, right? Red Bliss, fingerling, All right. All of these plate potatoes will do. Do not use a rust potato in this assignment. If you do, make sure you're writing about that in the narrative and talking about, you know, maybe you can't find a wax potato. That's fine. That happens. But talk about what differences you see. What would a waxy potato be like in this assignment? Because it's not going to break down. Your starchy, your russet potato is going to break down in this assignment. It's just its natural tendency to do so. Okay, so seek out those waxy potatoes. Any of those varietals that I just met are going to do fine. Yellow, red, purple, right? And now if you do fingerlings, you're going to have one heck of a time peeling this, so I don't recommend that either. But let me pull up your recipes and your photo requirements, so we're all on the same page here. Because there are some very specific things that you got to watch out for in this recipe and your photo requirements. Here we go. By the way, I love potatoes. I hope everybody else does too. They're so delicious. You can basically transform them to anything. And if you don't know what, if you've ever heard of aligot, I'm going to show you after we finish this. It's a ridiculous French dish. So here we go. First and foremost, week 6. Let's check out that plant, see how it's coming along. All right. Self-ID and Sani, proper mise en place as always. All right. Now, before we get into these, going into all of those, the rest of those required formats, I want to show you this. All right. We've got that warm potato, German potato salad. So, waxy potatoes. Scrub potatoes, peel carefully. All right. You want to get nice long strips so you can make really nice, pretty garnish, right? That's the idea there. If you can't get super long, then you still can make some beautiful potato chips. They're just not going to be very long and elegant. All right. You peel these first and then steam or boil until tender. Do not overcook them. Do not cut them first. You are cooking these whole, steaming or boiling. All right. Really important. Again, this goes into attention to detail, reading a recipe, following a recipe. Why do you think we're talking about boiling or steaming these whole? Even cooking? Yeah, well, guess what else it's not going to do? Surface area. If I slice these all up and dice these all up, I've just massively increased the surface area, right? Which means they're going to cook faster and more likely they're going to break down and start to disintegrate on those edges a lot quicker. Boil, steam them whole. They're going to be more intact. All right. You're going to let those potatoes cool down, all right, to room temp. So again, remember, just like anything, things continue to cook, right, as they're resting. So if you've got like a teeny little bit of resistance, that's fine. You don't want full-on resistance, but a little resistance, a little is okay. You want to make sure that they're fully cooked, but they're not starting to break down on those edges. All right. And then let's get back into that. So drain those, leave them in the colander, spread them out on a sheet pad, let them cool. Fine. All right. Next important stop here. Render bacon. What does render bacon mean? When we render fat, what are we doing? Could be duck fat, it could be any type of fat. Beef fat. What does render mean? I see some people putting a lot of ideas out there, which is good. So when we render something, right, rendering the fat out, right? Bacon, we know, has meat and fat, right, next to each other in strips. Rendering means low and slow because you can't render something on high heat. Rendering takes place on low to medium heat because you're slowly pulling all of that fat off, all right? Where you're just left with that bit of meat. The fat should be dissolved, right? Because fat does dissolve, right? We know that fat melts, protein does not, right? So you render that, you pull the fat out, okay? Now you have that fat to use as the base as your dressing. If you don't properly render your bacon, you're not gonna have this beautiful dressing. And you're also gonna have little chewy pieces of fat in your potato salad, which some people might like. I'm not against that, but a lot of people don't like it, all right? But I'm like a little piggy. I'll eat anything. I love it all. Give me that fat on the steak. I'm into it. But yeah, a lot of people are shaking their heads. Guess what? Because most people don't like that. So you're gonna have one freak in the crowd that is down for that. But guess what? The rest of your customers are like, I was chewing on this and it was disgusting. All right? So make sure that you're properly rendering this. Additionally, when we render bacon, you should be rendering this on the stovetop, not in the oven. Okay? When you're cooking massive quantities of bacon for a breakfast joint, heck yeah, throw all those pieces of bacon on that sheet tray with parchment paper, let her go, you pull it out, drain the fat, and you're beautiful. That's not rendering bacon. That is cooking bacon to serve. We are rendering bacon for a specific component of this dish, all right? So, popping back into the assignment. Once you've fully rendered that bacon, all right, then you're gonna go ahead and add that wine vinegar, onion and shallot, garlic, parsley, and a little bit of chicken stock into that. But you can take that pan, you can either put it right in the pan or put it into a separate bowl, but that's basically your vinaigrette. Why? Because you've got acid and you've got fat, right? Fat and acid. You're making a vinaigrette, you're making your dressing, and a little bit of chicken stock, all right? Now, a few things to note. One, if you want to increase your bacon, I highly suggest it. 2 ounces is not a lot of bacon for 1.5 pounds of potato, if you're like me. I'm okay with you increasing that bacon, double that up, all right? Just note it in your mise en place, your narrative. And honestly, you could up that parsley a little bit too. Hit it up with 2 tablespoons. It'll be nice, add a little bit more freshness to it. Once you have your dressing set and ready to go, all of these ingredients combined, you are going to then slice or dice your potatoes and then mix your dressing, let it sit, because just like that potato salad, we want those potatoes to soak up a little of that dressing. We want it to soak up that dressing. And then serve. You can eat this warm, room temperature, or warmer room temperature. Fine. Doesn't need to be piping hot. You're gonna let it cool for 15 minutes, and you don't really necessarily want to eat it cold either, because you've got this fatty vinaigrette, right? You're not emulsifying a dressing. It's not like eating cold potato salad. This is different. So warmer room temperature, perfect. Does anybody have any questions regarding any of those techniques about rendering or how to properly do this? Solid. Perfect. So now the question is, well, what are we doing with those potato skins? Well, guess what? You're gonna take those potato skins, you're gonna toss them in, you've got 2 methods of executing these, right? You're either gonna toss them in your spices and seasoning first and then bake them, right? Or do not toss them in your seasoning, right? And fry them and then toss afterwards. Now, why am I saying that if we're gonna fry, we don't wanna toss our skins with the spices first?
Yeah, cook off all the spices.
Yeah, spices burn, bitter, makes the oil gross. Yeah, all of these things. Salt is not a friend of fat. Okay, it is when you eat it, but not when you're cooking that, right? When we're not talking about deep frying it. So I will pull up that recipe for the potato skins, so you see what we're looking at right here. Skins from that potatoes, right? Remember, those are raw potato skins. Preheat them to 350, toss your ingredients, super simple: oil, paprika, salt and pepper, Some students who don't like paprika have said this is really aggressive for paprika. If you feel like if you have an aversion to paprika, feel free to drop that down to like half a tablespoon if you want. And then you spread those out on a baking sheet, bake until crispy. Now remember, this is a guideline, around 20 minutes. That means check it at 10, right? You don't want to have some issues like we had with granola. And then your alternative is just deep frying them and tossing them with seasonings afterwards, okay? So super simple, straightforward. Then you've got this beautiful German potato salad and these gorgeous little craggly, crunchy textured potato skins. Garnish your salad and voila, right? Now you've just taken a product that would normally be thrown in the garbage and you've just totally elevated a German potato salad. You've added texture. Yeah. You've added texture. You've added, a little bit of elegance to it, right? And you've just saved how many pounds after, if you were doing this for, you were doing a catering gig, maybe you're not garnishing that potato salad with something. You're going to fry those off and use them on a garnish for a loaded potato soup, right? Who wouldn't want to get that creamy loaded potato soup with then some like crispy potato skins on top of that and some onions? Yeah, right? Sounds awesome. Or garnishing whatever else, right? Salad. I mean, the list doesn't stop, especially like a crunched potato garnish. Pretty fantastic. So the plating is just your German potatoes. I'll pull up the required photos. Your plating is just your German potato salad with the garnish. So here we go. Again, proper mise en place. If we're looking at potato salad, proper mise en place. Then your cooked potatoes, cooking bacon, or bacon cooking, whatever. Your dressings combined with the bacon fat and bacon, potatoes combined with dressing, and your final product garnished with potato skins. You don't need to do 2. You can do 2. You can do 5. You can do 10. Whatever. And then your potato skin garnish, again, very simple. You want to have those. We want to see a picture that making sure that you're washing and scrubbing that, right? Making sure that your potatoes are clean because we're going to use and eat those peels. All right. Potato peels, peeled potatoes submerged in water. All right. And your potato peels in nice, long, even strips, tossed on a tray, or, alternatively, if you're frying, demonstrate those photos, and your finished tasty potato skins. Does anybody have any questions? Chef Lee, was there anything in the chat that came up that was important to talk about?
Margarita, I think, asked about using the rendered fat to toss the skins in, and you'll need that rendered fat for your vinaigrette. If you want to cook some extra bacon, you can, but bacon grease can get smoky in your oven. So I would recommend using the recipe as it is. Save that extra bacon grease if you have it for cooking something on the stove in your cast iron skillet, maybe.
And you probably shouldn't. You should just dump all that bacon grease in this potato salad because you want it. And this is a tangy potato salad. Remember, every culture, every cuisine has different styles of making potato salad. So even though we might be accustomed in the US to like our mayonnaise-based or sour cream-based potato salad, it's just a different way of looking at it. Let's see what else. When does an emulsion? The emulsion happens by taking your bacon fat and adding your vinegar and chicken stock. It's not like you're not going to be whisking this to create a proper emulsion, but they'll blend together. They'll be friends. Let's see, what else? There was something else that I wanted to talk to you about. I think this was just more about food waste. There are some great reads in the slideshow section of the class. As always, let me just pull it up so click on them, check them out. Tons of really cool information. I I hope I put this in there. I don't know. There's so much happening about food waste. Do you know that South Korea, for example, used to have like a ridiculously high amount of food waste, all right? They were just tossing out a ton of food waste. Guess what the government said? They said, you know what? This is out of control. We need to start taxing you. So guess what? Now you have to, when you go to throw out your waste, you weigh it and you pay for that waste. That will keep you on your toes for not letting products just go to the wayside, right? They totally turned down their food waste. Their food waste is down to like 2% in a household. So it's not like it's impossible. It's just about being more aware, utilizing products better. The amount of waste that we have because of improper storage, not, spoilage, overcooking, all these things. What do we do with the doggy bag, right? Taking it home, do we not? Do we? Is there a thing called, what if you're making food and you constantly see huge portions, right? You're serving portions because that's what we want. We want huge portions for our dollar. And then you're getting back these plates full of food that's just getting thrown away because you can't do anything with that. You gotta find a middle spot. Maybe you drop your portion size, but you also drop your cost. A few other things, really important. There are some really cool loopholes into donations, right? Food donations. If we overproduce, say you've got a catering gig or a party, and they're saying we're gonna have 300 guests show up. So you prep enough food for 300 and only 200 show. That's fine, you're still getting paid for your 300. But what are you gonna do? And they don't want the leftovers. What are you gonna do with that extra 100 portions? What are some options? What can you do? Shelters, donate, yep. Party, hey, yep. Run it as a special, totally. Give it to staff, yeah. All those are great options. Some might be thinking though, hey, I don't know about donating food. I don't want to get in trouble for making somebody sick, right? Feeding the homeless, great idea until you get sued. Well, guess what? Something you don't have to worry about. They changed now you have to check in every state because every state has some variations, all right? However, there is it was changed because it was the act of good faith. So I'm donating this in an act of good faith, meaning my intention is to help others, not to hurt others. And there's also this whole idea of having a third party delivery because guess what? Restaurant doesn't have a lot of time, extra staff to be running around donating this to the homeless. How are you gonna organize that? There are third party people, right? That will literally, I used to work for one. We would go and pick up leftover food that would normally be thrown out and then would pick it up. It has to all be in perfect, time and temp. So you're weighing it, you're checking your temperature when you're picking it up and you're checking that temperature on delivery, right? And we were delivering it to homeless shelters, halfway houses, and a bunch of other places in between. And let me tell you, it was fantastic. And the amount of waste that we were picking up from stores would be utterly shocking to you. How many places do you ever see where you've got bread, right? Fresh bread baked daily. What happens to all the bread that doesn't bake daily that doesn't get sold that day? Yeah, it's a lot of bread. We were literally picking up garbage bags, clean garbage bags, obviously, but they're a plastic bag, piled to the ceiling at at grocery stores because they had a very high standard. And so we were dropping off loaves that literally were selling for $8, $9 in the city and making this up because they simply didn't want to sell day-old bread. And they also did not, this is a little trick, right? You're thinking, well, why didn't they just sell it for half price the next day? Again, they did not want their bread to be thought of anything other than fresh baked. So it's very interesting. What about a cake? What about cookies? Where, you know that a cookie is gonna last, yeah, quality, exactly, lowering the standard. You know that a cookie is gonna be good for like a solid week, right? Solid week. But maybe I'm like, after day 5, I don't like that taste. Something has changed. And I don't want that. I don't wanna lower my standards. So we gotta get rid of that. Might be still totally edible, still delicious. So tons of ways to think about how you utilize food. Where does it go? How do you prep? Keeping your tight eye on your numbers. There's so much to talk about and so many utilizations of leftover bread, from freezing it. What did we just make the other week? Croutons, bread pudding, stuffing. The list goes on and on. Okay? So never stop thinking about, French toast, what you can do, how you can, little things that you can have a huge impact. Not just on your establishment, but your staff, right? Giving your staff to food, right? Food to staff, or helping homeless shelters, right? Breadcrumbs, everything. You can make a bread, dipping, right? Your 3-stage breading out of that. Keep pushing, all right? Keep pushing your own envelopes. Keep thinking about how I can reduce waste, how I can make it a more sustainable community for everybody. All right, and enjoy this very simple but very tasty recipe. And if you have questions, reach out. You know how to get us. We're around. And we do not have class tomorrow night, but next week, starting in week 1 and week 7, it's going to be us again, except Chef Lee will be running the show in 187. But I'll be popping in, I'll be there, and I'll be saying stuff all the time. But that's the plan. So next week we'll be doubling down, 5 p.m., same time, same place, get us back to back. And keep kicking butt. I'm seeing we're both seeing some beautiful work, and so many improvements since week 1. So
For sure.
it was a pleasure.
Yeah, and I'm really loving reading your narrative reflections. When you're doing that this week and you notice some changes you're making at home or in the restaurant where you work or that you own related to food waste, little things that you're doing to make those changes that Chef Catherine has talked about, please put that in your narrative reflection. I'd love to read about it.
Totally. Awesome. Thank you, Chef. All righty. Gina, I'm not sure what you did, but if you want to add a picture and show something, go for it. All right, class, catch you next week. Reach out and enjoy. Have a beautiful rest of the week. Take care. Thank y'all. Bye, Chef.